Damian Reed had never believed in soulmates until he met Celine. She was breathtaking, a rare hybrid with golden blonde waves cascading down her shoulders, fox-like ears that twitched at every sound, and a luxurious tail that swayed with feline grace. Her amber eyes held mysteries he wanted to spend a lifetime unraveling. When she smiled, the world felt warmer. They met at a charity gala 3 years ago. Celine worked in event management, her charm captivating everyone in the room. But when she looked at Damian, a successful architect, something shifted. Their connection was instant, electric. "You're different from the others," she'd whispered that first night, her tail curling around his wrist as they danced. "You see me." He fell hard. Celine became his universe, her laughter his favorite song, her touch his sanctuary. He designed their dream home, sketching every detail she desired. He canceled projects to spend time with her, prioritizing her needs above his career. Then came the diagnosis: kidney failure. Aggressive. She needed a transplant urgently, and the waiting list was impossibly long. Damian didn't hesitate. "Take mine," he told the doctors the same day. Celine cried in his arms, her ears pressed flat against her head in distress. "I can't ask you to do this. What if something happens to you?" "Nothing will happen," he promised, stroking her soft tail. "I love you, Celine. I'd give you everything." The surgery was grueling. Recovery took months. Damian's body weakened, his athletic frame becoming gaunt. His architectural firm struggled without his full attention, but he didn't care. Watching Celine's health return, seeing color bloom back into her cheeks, made every moment of pain worthwhile. She was attentive during his recovery, bringing him meals, curling beside him in bed with her tail wrapped protectively around his waist. On those nights, she'd whisper gratitude against his chest, her hands tracing gentle patterns on his skin. "I'll spend forever making this up to you," she'd promised between soft kisses. 6 months post-surgery, when Damian finally regained his strength, he proposed. Celine said yes immediately, her tail standing straight up in excitement. They set the wedding date for spring, a small, intimate ceremony at the countryside estate he'd designed for them. Damian believed he was the luckiest man alive. He had no idea his entire world was built on lies. The first sign came 3 weeks before the wedding. Damian arrived home early from a client meeting, eager to surprise Celine with dinner reservations at her favorite restaurant. The house was quiet, but her car sat in the driveway. He climbed the stairs, calling her name. No response. Then he heard it, her voice, soft and intimate, coming from their bedroom. I know, just a few more weeks. After the wedding, things will be easier." Damian's hand froze on the doorknob. Who was she talking to? He pushed the door open. Celine sat on their bed, phone pressed to her ear, tail swishing nervously. When she saw him, her eyes widened. "I have to go," she said quickly, ending the call. "Who was that?" Damian asked, trying to keep his tone casual. "Just Madison, discussing bridesmaid stuff." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. She stood, smoothing her dress, ears twitching. "You're home early." "Wanted to surprise you." He studied her face, searching for truth. "Everything okay?" "Perfect. I'm just stressed about the wedding." Her lips found his, desperate and demanding. Her tail wound around his leg as she pressed against him, clearly trying to distract him. It worked. Damian let himself get lost in her kiss, in the familiar scent of her perfume, the softness of her curves. They tumbled onto the bed, clothes falling away. Celine was particularly passionate that evening, her claws lightly dragging down his back as she moved above him, blonde hair creating a curtain around their faces. Afterward, as she lay curled against his scarred abdomen, the surgical mark from his donated kidney, doubt crept back in. Over the following weeks, more inconsistencies appeared. Unexplained absences, hushed phone conversations that ended when he entered rooms. Credit card statements showing purchases at hotels he'd never visited with her. Business dinners,
she'd explain, her tail flicking in what he now recognized as anxiety. "You know how demanding my job is." He wanted to believe her. After everything they'd been through, everything he'd sacrificed, suspicion felt like betrayal. But the night before their wedding, Damien couldn't sleep. Celine breathed softly beside him, her tail draped over his chest. He gently moved it aside and retrieved her phone from the nightstand. What he found shattered everything.
The messages told a story Damien wished he'd never read. Xavier, can't wait until this charade is over. Marrying him was your idea, but I'm tired of hiding. Celine, I know, baby, just hold on. Once we're married, I'll have access to everything. The house, his accounts, the trust fund. Then we can be together openly. Xavier, what about the kidney thing? Still feel guilty? Celine, why would I? He volunteered. Besides, he was so desperate to prove his love. Easy manipulation. Damien's hands trembled as he scrolled through months of messages, intimate photos, planning sessions, conversations about their future, a future that included spending Damien's money, living in the home he'd designed while he played the fool. Xavier worked at Celine's company. They'd been together the entire time Damien had known her. The affair never stopped, not during her illness, not during his recovery, not even when he was lying in a hospital bed, one kidney lighter, believing he'd save the woman he loved. Wedding morning arrived with cruel sunshine. Damien went through the motions mechanically, putting on his tuxedo, greeting early arriving guests. His best friend, Nathan, noticed something was wrong. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Nathan said. "Maybe I have," Damien replied quietly. The ceremony was scheduled for 3 o'clock at their estate's garden. Guests filled white chairs arranged in neat rows. Flowers bloomed everywhere. Celine had insisted on perfection. Damien stood at the altar, the officiant beside him. Music began, guests rose. Celine appeared at the garden entrance, breathtaking in white lace that complemented her golden hair. Her tail swayed elegantly beneath the dress's custom design. Her fox ears bore delicate pearl accessories. She looked like every dream he'd ever had. She also looked surprised when she reached the altar and saw his expression. "We need to talk," Damien said quietly, loud enough only for her to hear. "Now?" Her ears flattened slightly. "Damien, everyone's watching." "I know about Xavier." Color drained from her face. Her tail went rigid. "I don't." His voice was steel wrapped in silk. "I've read everything, every message, every lie." The officiant cleared his throat awkwardly. Guests began murmuring, sensing something wrong. Celine's amber eyes filled with tears, but Damien now recognized them as calculated, not genuine. "Please," she whispered, "let me explain." "No," Damien said, his voice carrying now. "I think everyone should hear this."
The garden fell silent as Damien pulled out his phone. "For 3 years," he announced, his voice steady despite the earthquake in his chest, "I believed I'd found my soulmate. I gave this woman everything, my time, my resources, my career opportunities." He paused, looking directly at Celine's horrified face. 6 months ago, I gave her my kidney to save her life." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Celine's mother stood, hand over her mouth. "Damien, stop!" Celine reached for him, but he stepped back. "I thought our love was real. But while I was recovering from surgery, barely able to walk, she was texting her actual boyfriend, planning how they'd spend my money once we were married." He held up his phone. "It's all here. Every message, every lie." "You went through my phone?" Celine's shock turned to anger, her tail lashing. "That's a violation of privacy." "Privacy?" Damien's laugh was bitter. "You planned to marry me for my money while sleeping with someone else. But I'm the villain for discovering the truth?" Xavier suddenly stood from among the guests, a handsome hybrid with dark hair and wolf-like features. Several people recognized him from Celine's company. "This is insane," Xavier said, moving toward the altar. "Celine, we're done here. Let's go." "No." Damien blocked their path. "You wanted access to what's mine? Here's what's happening instead. This house," he gestured to the estate surrounding them, "still in my name alone. My accounts already frozen and secured with my lawyer. The prenup you refused to sign, Celine? Consider that a blessing for you, because you're leaving with exactly what you brought. Nothing." Celine's composure cracked completely. "You can't do this. I almost died. You said you'd give me everything." "I did give you everything, including an organ I'll never get back." His voice dropped. "But I won't give you my dignity, my self-respect, my future." He turned to the crowd. "I apologize for the disruption. There will be no wedding today. But please, enjoy the reception. The food and drinks are paid for." Celine's ears pinned back, tears streaming down her face. But as Damien watched closely, he saw something else flicker across her features. Frustration that her plan had failed, not genuine remorse. "I loved you," he said quietly, "just for her. That was real. But it wasn't enough for you."
6 months later, Damien stood in his redesigned home office, reviewing blueprints for a children's hospital. After the wedding disaster, he'd thrown himself into recovery, not physical this time, but emotional. Therapy helped him understand how he'd mistaken desperate devotion for healthy love, how he'd ignored red flags because he wanted so badly to believe in their story. The scandal had briefly made local news, but public sympathy surprisingly fell on his side. Several clients actually reached out with new projects, impressed by his integrity. Nathan visited often, helping him navigate the aftermath. "You did the right thing," his friend assured him repeatedly. "Walking away took more strength than staying." Damien heard through mutual acquaintances that Celine and Xavier's relationship imploded within weeks. Apparently, without Damien's money as a goal, they had nothing substantial holding them together. Celine tried reaching out several times, leaving voicemails that alternated between apologetic and accusatory. He never responded. One autumn afternoon, while reviewing contracts at a cafe, someone approached his table. "Excuse me, Damien Reed?" He looked up to find a beautiful hybrid woman with silver white hair and elegant deer antlers. Her smile was warm but professional. "I'm Rosalind Winters. I work with the Children's Hospital Foundation. I've been trying to reach you about the project." They talked for hours. Rosalind was intelligent, passionate about her work, and refreshingly direct. When their conversation shifted from business to personal, she noticed the surgical scar visible above his collar. "Kidney donation?" she asked gently. "Yes." He found himself telling her the story, not with bitterness, but with the clarity of someone who'd processed the pain. "That kind of betrayal," Rosalind shook her head. "I'm sorry you experienced that. But the fact that you still want to design a children's hospital, still want to help others after being hurt so badly," she smiled, "that says everything about who you are." Something shifted in Damien's chest, not the desperate, all-consuming feeling he'd had with Celine, but something gentler, more genuine. "Would you like to have dinner sometime to discuss the project further?" Rosalind's eyes sparkled. "I'd like that." As Damien left the cafe that evening, he realized something profound. He'd given Celine everything, including a part of himself he could never reclaim. But what remained, his integrity, his capacity for love, his self-worth, was his to protect. And this time, he'd choose wisely.